Refreshed from an Easter break, New Tricks returns this week to discuss Macron's chest hair and election glory, lengthening booking windows and increasing consumer confidence in the sector. Daniel Johansson, Director of Development and Acquisitions at Cheval Collection, kindly joins us and shares his views on all of this, plus how the team at Cheval is preparing for an imminent return to conferencing. Hello and welcome to another episode of New Tricks, which is the regular podcast from NewDog PR. We've had a little break over Easter to stuff our faces with chocolate and hot cross buns, and we're now fully digested and back in the land of podcasting. Catherine is here from Paris, and we shall get on imminently to the political landscape there, because thrilling it is at the moment, I'm sure. And joining us this week, Daniel Johansson, who is the Director of Development and Acquisitions at Cheval. Daniel, welcome to New Tricks. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Good morning.
I said Cheval, not Cheval Collection or Cheval. Yeah, Cheval Collection to give it its proper title.
I think that's the right one to use.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how was your weekend?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I'm feeling, and you can maybe hear it in my voice, I'm just a little tired. And I think it is definitely sort of a sign of age, as my wife and I attended one of the sort of charity school balls. And it was great fun, but it takes time to recover. And I can feel it even today.
Yes, fun can be tiring.
But it's good to do every now and again.
Exactly. Well, I think it's difficult for the population as a whole, isn't it? Because there was no fun, and for months and months, and fun wasn't allowed unless you lived in certain kind of central London locations. And then there was fun, and you have to ease back into that. You wouldn't run a marathon straight away, would you? And so I think after years of no fun, going straight into like a ball or something like that is very brave of you. And it's no wonder that there's maybe some light wanness.
Yeah, no. So
well, you can't be blamed, I don't think.
No, but you think when you sit there, there's just no masks, obviously, at all. It's like nothing ever happened. So, and there was not even a sort of the message going out prior to, we would recommend a test prior to going to an event with 200 odd people, which I thought could have been quite sensible, because at least a percentage would have taken the test and checked. But no, I think that there's just nothing.
Well, I guess the proof will be in the pudding in about a week's time.
Yeah, no, we've tested ourselves already.
Some yay events.
Yeah.
See, it's not just feeling a bit tired afterwards with big events these days, is it?
It's like, was that a super spreader?
Yes.
I wonder if there's a market here. You get the sort of couch to 5K program, which gently eases you into being able to do a 5K from just sitting on the sofa, stuffing your face with hot cross buns. I wonder if there is a couch to social event program that needs to be created, or maybe it does exist. If anyone is aware of one, do please share. Just a sort of gentle, tonight you're going to bed sort of 15 minutes later than bedtime with one extra glass of wine, and then you ramp it right up to however much alcohol you want to consume, various social interactions, conversations, all the way to you are ready for the school social ball.
Well, of course, here Frogside, they did do that, because you could drink in the gutter first before you could drink inside or on the ephemeral terraces. So there was that gentle move back in. And of course, off licence were always classed as critical shops.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was any shortage of people having drinks during any lockdown or COVID or whatever. It's just going on a night out is different, I think.
Yeah,
standing up often.
Yeah, talking to other people.
Yes.
Putting shoes on.
The sofa.
So, I'm glad you mentioned Frogside. How is Frogside? And particularly Macron's chest hair is what we all want to know.
Isn't it, though? So, well, obviously that's what swung it. We're all very pleased for him. So, yes, everyone's very happy this morning. Well, everyone who isn't a fascist anyway. So that's obviously, I expect they're sad somewhere in a corner. But yes, lovely day for Macca's. I see that Boris Johnson's already saying that he wants to come over and visit and reset the relationship and all those things. And this side, the finance minister has already said they're not interested. So no, there'll be no coming over to touch somebody who's won something recently and hope that it rubs off. And yes, and presumably Macron's chest hair greaser or whoever it is he deals with is very happy as well. I wasn't here for the voting, which doesn't matter because I'm not allowed to vote, so that was fine. But I was actually in the Lord's Bath experiencing the UK domestic holiday fun. Although obviously I live overseas, so I was a genuine overseas visitor. And Bath seemed to be fully throbbing with people who wanted to go on walking tours of Bridgerton locations, which was nice. And the rugby, which is always good. Though never good for Bath, but that was fine. But somewhat bizarrely, one of the shirt sponsors was a company called Macron. And so I did wonder whether this was sort of some kind of devious kind of electioneering on the part of our Maccas. And certainly features lots of burly men, some of whose chest hair you could see. So I think the message is clear here for the next election in the UK.
I cannot wait.
So choose your candidates wisely.
Always the fan of a bit of PR and comms, as you know. I am bemused and also sort of wildly intrigued as to how that conversation came up within the comms team. As to,
do you not normally finish a speech and then rip open your shirt whilst throwing yourself onto a sort of 70s leather chair? No.
I haven't done for a while, but as
and this takes us back to our original point. See, if you think you haven't done for a while, you need to remember. So Daniel will be appearing on our wonderful panel at IHIF in a couple of weeks' time, and we will obviously be looking out to see what happens in the live versus Zoom speaking environment.
Yeah, hopefully nobody is just sort of tearing their shirt open.
I would hope not. It's been a long time since people met up, and social mores have changed.
How are the IHIF preparations going, Daniel?
Very well, but it is incredibly hectic to put that program together. I find it's just sort of, you start like 3 months out and you think, no, surely I can't ask anyone for a meeting now. It's just way too early. 2 months in, you start doing something, and then suddenly I had this realization just 2 weeks ago that, oh my God, we have a lot to get organized. So we've set up we sort of, there are 9 of us going. So we've got about 250 people, sort of individual meetings we're trying to set up. So that's sort of a straightforward bit. But then, where and who do you attend with for whatever drinks, dinner, or invite to go to? So there's a lot of organization. And then, of course, this year, as we're going in as patron sponsor, we're going with a stand. So there's been lots of meetings about what should be on the stand and who is there and all of that. So, but overall, we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be great to see lots more people and the panel, of course.
Of course. Highlight.
That's the highlight, yes.
Yes, naturally.
The couch to IHIF, I think, has got a certain ring to it.
Yes.
What you've been doing is the sort of panel. Maybe we could factor that.
We are liking that now, so it's almost next week. Well, it is next week, but almost a week away. And you're thinking, do you stop drinking now entirely to freshen the livers and kidneys, or do you start drinking now? It's a terrible annual choice that one must make.
Daniel's opted for the latter, obviously.
Yes.
I think it's all about pacing yourself. Because if you go out too strong on the first night, you then have an awful time. And actually this time, of course, there's 2 really main days. So the first night you're just kind of arriving, and then you have the Wednesday and the Thursday.
Don't go out too hard on the Monday night, folks.
Tuesday night, yeah.
I have a long story about.
You can start on Monday if you like.
I think I might have to. Right, on to matters of service departments, pandemics, and how it all worked out very well for service departments. You seem to be the sort of golden child of the pandemic in terms of hospitality real estate assets.
By the way, just in case we're sort of about to talk about, it's been so resilient, we had 60% occupancy and all that. I think so many people that have signed into webinars or gone to conferences for service departments and may have not had such a good time. They must be either fed up or bored of hearing that, it's super resilient message.
You raise a valid point.
I mean, it has been good.
That's absolutely it's amazing.
But, there's no need to rub it in, is there?
No, we shan't be doing that.
No, we're less fortunate than ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I guess what we see is that people are booking ahead. They're daring to book ahead a little bit more now. And that's really great. It's sort of super last minute. And we can also be a little stronger on the cancellation rights and things like that. So whereas before and recently and still during some stages, you have the ability to literally cancel on the day and just say, I'm no longer coming for whatever reason, and then that's totally fine. We can see if we can adjust your date or we refund. But now you can say, okay, do let us know the sort of 24, 48 hours, or even if it's a longer booking, let us know a week in advance. So that's finally changing a tiny bit. Not fully. I think we always now need to remain flexible to keep guests happy, but at least you have a little bit more certainty of that people are going to be arriving, at least on the day.
Yeah. And that's interesting that because I suspect that element of flexibility will stay because guests have experienced it, tasted it, and it's been appealing to not have to commit to something 3 months out for this amount of time. Things change and circumstances change in a lot of situations very genuinely. So interesting to hear that the flexibility remains. Can you? I would like to talk about Myelocanda as well, because that's very exciting. But this was something that was in concept pre-pandemic.
And actually we've been working on Myelocanda for quite some time, at least 2.5 years, I would say. And we're still buzzing about the launch in February. And not only about the Myelocanda sort of brand launch, but also about the Glasgow announcement. And I sort of been thinking about how I view the Myelocanda brand. And I think it's kind of the potential in it is what happened to brands like Hoxton, A's, Mama Shelter, 25 Hours in the hotel space. And there are just not that many players in the service department world that are having a similar concept like this. And comparable brands, I'd be quite happy to say Lock and Silku. But there are not that many else that sort of roll off your tongue. And as you obviously, you guys know, but the Myelocanda is this sort of offering from Cheval Collection that we're quite happy to put in the apart hotel category rather than sort of full-on service departments. And that's a whole other subject you can go into. What is it called? Is it service department, apart hotel, extended stay, etc.? But for us, Myelocanda is about 80% studios, smaller apartments, and then really great public areas. And obviously there we're not reinventing the wheel per se, but we are. What I think is really unique about it is that it's a very high quality offering at an more affordable price point. And certainly how it sits within our three brands, where you have Cheval Residences, Cheval Maison, and then Myelocanda.
And go on, you go.
No. So you have these studios, you have the great public spaces. And so you have we think there will be obviously more transient business there, but you have the flexibility to stay longer. And if you want that independence and so on. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think we will have a very healthy mix of short and long stay.
And the first UK site is confirmed?
Indeed. So we're going to be, we've announced Glasgow. 168 keys there, really prime location in central Glasgow, just off George Square, and we're due for an opening we should hit Q2 in May 2024. So Q2 2024.
And it's a JV, isn't it? The Glasgow site.
Yeah. So we have joined forces with the Chris Stewart Group, whom we are already working with in Edinburgh on the 3 projects up there. So that's great. Yeah, no, we're super happy about it. And who knows, there might be more things to come as well.
And well, on more things to come, what are your ambitions for the Myelocanda brand and the other 2 brands within the Cheval Collection?
So our focus is on UK, Europe, and the Middle East primarily. There are no real sort of geographical limit as to where we can go, but for us, it's all about growing the portfolio primarily through asset light HMAs, and as a key focus, I think we definitely zoom in on the UK and great other cities in Europe. We look at new builds, we look at conversions. It can be a rebranding takeover, ideally 100 apartments plus, and then for Myelocanda, 200 apartments ideally, sort of 150 to 250, 200 being the sweet spot. Just you're looking at 80% studios, then compensating that with some public space. Cheval residences with its sort of larger apartments. If there was a really, really prime location, you could maybe take it down to 50 apartments. But then you would be looking at large, general sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom apartments.
I'm curious as to whether there were any, whether you had to adapt the operating model during the pandemic, and whether any of those changes you will continue with post-pandemic, if indeed we are post-pandemic, at whatever stage we are now.
I mean, I think sort of in terms of performance, I think we are a little bit post-pandemic. We're looking at our numbers now, and I think 2022 will be 2019 performance. So it feels very, very good. It's very buoyant on that side, and we're looking at a lot of projects. Just coming back to this thing about sort of the market, and I think investors are very active. They look at the deals, and so we're just therefore going through an incredible amount of reviews of potential projects. Measures that we put in place, I think flexibility will stay. The sort of on the hygienic side, of course, there's many things that have been implemented that will naturally stay in place. But do you need a sticker on the door to say make sure that the room has been cleaned? No, I think it's taken for granted. But some things will stay in place. The screens have come down from reception, where we have these sort of screens, and there's no requirement for masks and things like that. But I think no. I don't know. I mean, the way we clean the rooms have always been exceptional, and it's just keeping on top of those kind of standards.
Very good. I recently have been in consuming some hospitality. I had to remember that I did, and very much enjoyed peeling back the little sticker, at which point I thought, what does this mean? What is this telling me? I'm not quite sure. It's a sticker. It's good. It's a sticker.
Theatre, my friend.
You do have to trust that the sticker represents something, and whatever fumigating it is, it has occurred. Thank you very much for that overview. That's super helpful. I was going to ask you, so we used to ask people about biscuits and favourite biscuits, and then we sort of exhausted the biscuit aisle, we reckon. Or maybe not. Who knows?
And there's some cross-cultural issues, weren't there, where people don't have no clear understanding of what a digestive is.
Yes, exactly.
Just for the record, obviously I'm Swedish, but I've been here for a number of years now. Hopefully I'll recognize some brands, but it's 25 years plus. But I grew up in Sweden, where we have entirely different brands.
It's also
entirely different biscuits.
Yeah.
What's that, sorry?
Yes, they're entirely different biscuits.
So instead of the biscuit question, we're asking our guests to share their most memorable hotel experience. Do you have one, and what was it? And would you like to share with the group?
No, sure. It would definitely be the one and only Kanahura in the Maldives, which
dreadful.
Maldives very popular for this particular part of the podcast. I've noticed.
Oh, really? It's just, I mean, it was our honeymoon, and I just couldn't fault it. And also, being a hotelier, you are naturally a little bit picky,
trying to fault it,
trying to find something. But
awful is awful.
It was just so well considered. It was the service, it was the product, it was the food, and then obviously there are other things about the Maldives which are just amazing. But it just, even if the hotel were put somewhere else, you just didn't want to leave it. It was fantastic.
We went to the Maldives on our honeymoon and enjoyed that there's that, I can't remember what the airport's called now. What's the airport called that you fly into? Can't remember. Anyway, you get to that airport, probably begins with an M, maybe.
It's Male.
There we go. Well done. And there's just this collective excitement. It's a bit like, the sort of Christmas Eve of all these grown-ups thinking we're going to paradise.
Yes.
But at that point, I think they take all your food and booze off you, don't they? Because you're not allowed to take. Yes, I know. Because I see.
Awful.
But it was very, very pleasant. Daniel's looking quizzically like that didn't happen to him. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I didn't ride with bags of it.
Laden with my own booze. Don't do that. Well, that does sound idyllic. Oh.
I was just thinking about where you could put one and only that wouldn't work.
Croydon.
Ipswich, yes. I think that's
another hotel, but is a bit different because it's where I worked. But it's still very memorable to me. It's One Aldridge when that opened back in '98, and it just felt very special. Obviously, I worked there and I was there day and night for many days. But this was the sort of what coined later, or one of the hotels was coined later, sort of a luxury boutique hotel. But it just felt like there were so many things absolutely spot on, and guests just seemed to really, really enjoy it and come back. So and staff were enjoying it. And I know many of us that worked there have gone on to do lots of other great things afterwards as well.
Yes, I always appreciate a latte that is actually hot in your room. That was part of the One Aldridge promise, wasn't it?
Oh,
if you get room service latte, it would be hot.
Yeah.
Memorable experiences. Done.
Absolutely. Also, my memory of One Aldridge is always the giant flower display.
Yes.
But the latte is probably more relevant.
Yeah.
Since we are all trotting off to Germany next week, it's maybe an appropriate point to talk about the Cheval. It's the Cheval Maison, isn't it, in Frankfurt? Have I got the correct brand there, or is it?
Absolutely, yeah. So Cheval Maison, Frankfurt, 181 apartments, and we're opening next year. So that feels suddenly very close, and something you can start getting excited about. It's a pre-opening time, getting the team organized properly. First year, sort of pre-opening budget, properly presented 12 months out, and then, obviously you start gearing up for the GM and then the rest of the team and so on. So technical services were recently out there. It's coming together really, really nicely. So that's going to be nice. And it's just to open in such a city in Europe, I think it's also going to be helpful for our growth. Mm-hmm. And for other clients to be able to go and see it. And for us, this is a management agreement, which I think is also perhaps slightly unusual for Germany, but sends a very good message, I think, hopefully for others that we can sign with under a management agreement. And the fact that it doesn't always have to be a lease in Germany.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're growing up now. But also didn't work out so well for a lot of leases recently.
No, and I mean, obviously, I'm perhaps biased because I really do think the management agreement model works as long as you've got a good alignment with the owner. But there should be more value, and there should be a better bottom line, and therefore more cash flow to the owner. And the banks and other lenders are definitely financing HMAs. So, but I appreciate there are some funds and some requirements or some structures where the investors simply can't sign an HMA. They can only go with the lease, and that's fine. That works as well.
You would consider a lease?
We wouldn't rule it out, actually. But we're not going forward on a lease basis as of today. Our growth model is definitely an HMA, or we acquire, because about 50% of the leads coming in, they are acquisitions. They are properties that could be for sale. So, and we can't buy all of these, but then we package them up and we look at it, doing something together with an investor that will join us. And so I think it's very important to keep your eyes open for all kinds of situations out there. And yes, we may sign a lease in future. Other ways to get around it might be through some kind of guarantee structure, or a lot of people still talk about key money, and key money definitely exists out there. And I think we're open to discussing all options, really.
There's been quite the search, particularly on this podcast, for the Quarter of Reckoning.
Quarter of Reckoning!
I can't say it without her doing that, so it has to happen that way. I'm intrigued. The opportunities that you mentioned that are coming to you, are they under any stress? Are they what? And obviously, you don't have to give specifics, but just as a general flavour, are these people who thought, I don't want anything to do with real estate anymore, here you go, or now's the time? What's the sort of flavour of the opportunities being presented?
Well, if we're talking specifically about things that are for sale, I don't think there are any sort of discounts out there yet, really. And maybe that's happening even later this year. I don't know, but I haven't heard that. I haven't seen it yet. So that's quite interesting. People are still waiting for that moment where maybe banks have got fed up on giving support or so on, but I haven't seen it yet. So there's still a huge competition for those assets that are out there and available, and they're being sold for quite high prices.
And if, as you mentioned, 22 performance is looking like 2019, then I don't know. Is this going to be elusive, this Quarter of Reckoning?
Well, I think that's maybe unique to service departments and then where you are, of course, the market dependent. But yeah, our forecast is looking super strong and what's on the books and everything else. But it's obviously not everywhere, and there's still hotels out there that are hugely reliant on more Americans or more from another market, and they may not yet be traveling as much. So business is probably down overall, of course, but we're fortunate so far.
There's no uniformity here, is there? And as we were reminded during the pandemic, we may all have been in the same sea, but we were certainly in different boats, and that seems to continue with the recovery, doesn't it? Same sea, different boats. There's a metaphor there somewhere. Daniel, we ask all our guests the same questions at the end of the podcast, which hopefully have made their way to you, and you've spent hours and polled everyone at the school charity ball for collective responses. So if we may, do you have 5 more minutes just to talk through those? We ask you those questions and you share your responses.
Sure. Yeah, fire away.
Okay. Unless Catherine has anything to interject here on leases, because that is your favourite subject.
I do like thinking about leases and REITs. I'm going to move on at this point.
Okay. So question 1, when the shutters came up and I had the jabs in my arm, the first thing I did was?
I nipped over to Sweden to see my parents. That had not been possible for quite some time. Also, although I'm not particularly proud of the carbon footprint, we seem to, when sort of it became easier to travel, I think we packed in about a year's worth of travel in 3 months. So it was so important to go see certain projects, to go and meet people, that it just became sort of that September, October, November, before Omicron happened last year, that we just need to pack in a lot of trips.
That's A, wholesome, and B, professional in response. You get many, many points. Well done. The best thing about the hotel sector is?
That it's a people business, the variety, and it's never boring.
I would agree with all of those. All of those points. Never, ever boring. The hotel sector would be significantly improved if?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is a bit controversial, but if there wasn't this sort of incessant need for growth for shareholders in particularly major corporations, then I actually think, and it's not necessarily in all aspects, but I think the actual hotel product might actually be better for the consumer. Because I think the growth aspiration takes over sometimes what could genuinely be better for a particular property and hotel. So, I mean, you can put standards in place. Of course, that happens. There are many companies that do it really well, but it is near impossible to keep an eye on detail when you have thousands and thousands of properties. You can't even visit them all in 1 year. So I think that would be my answer.
I don't want to be riddled with controversy necessarily.
Good.
So yes, although it does.
I don't want to upset anyone.
No, of course it does raise again the question of who is the guest in this environment, whether it's the owner or the person sleeping in the room. And I think in that situation, actually, both of them would have some grumpy things to say.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed that response. So you be as controversial as you like. What the industry needs now is
a few years of good trading. I'll leave it there.
Right.
Short, concise. We just need to have a few years under our belt now where hotels and all other hospitality projects are trading well. It's obviously going to be a make or break for many companies, and for the health of our industry. I think it's just hugely important.
Spot on. And finally, I'd like to think we've learnt from this. ...
The environmental impact. So I think obviously just been I'm talking about sort of what happened during the pandemic and what we saw, and I think one of my takeaways definitely is just we just need to wake up and need to look after the environment. And I think it's been a kick up the backside for ESG being on the agenda much more so, and of course it's trickling down from higher powers, and when the money says this is what you need in order to lend, of course it helps, but it's just generally I think there's just more awareness. And I think it was a real oh wow, we actually, when we're not traveling that much and we're not all driving around, the city's smog clears up. It makes a huge difference. And we just need to be smarter going in the future.
Very much so. Daniel, that was terrific. Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck with the reducing tiredness over the next few days. And readying yourself for your IHIF delights next week.
I'm so tempted to get a load of chest wigs for my panel.
Done.
Just have everyone at the end.
Quick look on Amazon. If you could alert the IHIF photographer at the exact time and location of that.
And is it too late to get them branded? Is of course the eternal question.
There's someone out there that can do that in 48 hours.
And obviously your podcast will go viral. So as everyone hears the message, the room will just be full because they want to see what's happening.
Yes, and before people bringing their own branded chest wigs, and it'll be the Cameron McKenna rubber duck of this year.
Exactly, it'll replace the CBRE hat party. We'll all just be running around with our chest wigs.
So tempted.
Flapping in the wind. I forgot to mention, you, Cheval, are doing a survey, aren't you, on sort of future travel intent. Is that still available for the good people, all however many billions are listening to this, of people to fill in?
Yes, it is. And I think just before they closed the play on Friday, I think we were up to about 2,000 people that had filled out the survey. So it's going to be very good information. We'll get the latest update later this week. But yes, it's still live, still out there.
Fabulous. Well, we'll include all the relevant links to that alongside the podcast, so we might get a few more responses as well. I think that concludes our learnings for today. Thank you so much, Catherine. Enjoy Macron and all his
disturbing array of chest wigs available on the internet.
See, is there nothing that the internet cannot provide for?
That's what it's here for.
It seems not. And thank you very much again, Daniel. Have a tremendous week and see you in Berlin.
Thank you very much. See you there. Thank you.
Or as they say here, simply stick it on and you're good to go.
So that concludes our thoughts for this week. Thank you to everyone involved in creating this episode and providing something for your ears whilst walking the dog, washing the cat, chopping the veg, or however else you pass the time while podcasting.
Please do review and subscribe if you get your ear entertainment via Apple, or follow New Tricks if your ear delight comes from Spotify. These things make a difference, apparently. Until next time.